Got a friend in Santiago, got a friend in Berlin, got a friend 100 miles away, who's as close as my hand. Distance couldn't keep us apart because we're one man with one heart.
Our world and the concealed upper world are one world. They're separated into two parts only in regards to us. By correcting oneself, one can reveal the second part of the universe. The matter of creation is the will to receive pleasure. Therefore, all of creation is a single, sensitive, living, creative organism. Nothing in creation is a consequence of a coincidental or a mechanical occurrence. The outcome of an action, the Kabbalists tell us, is in the original thought. Not in the thought, actually. This is a poetic way of expressing, but in an intention, a desire. So whatever is in that initial desire, whatever brought up the thought that gave rise to some kind of a what we think of as a physical action in our world, whatever that original impulse from the desire, because desire precedes thought. Thought serves desire. It's only the operating system of a desire. How do you fulfill a particular impulse or desire? If that outcome is not in the initial desire or intention, it can never appear as an outcome. And in terms of the hidden world, that is the causative level of things, an action is an intention. An action is a desire. It begins and ends there. And actually there is no beginning and no end to it. So all of the things that we would like to have happen in the world are really dependent on this. Because we have a problem here. As much as we are being moved along by the events of life and by the stirrings of our own hearts to find an answer and to respond to these things, we continually make efforts that don't give us the result that we want. Because according to the way that we now experience our lives, there's a separation between cause and effect. We cannot feel the causal level. Our problem basically is that we don't have access to this thing that we call intention. There's no way that we can force ourselves to think along a certain line. That if we want a good outcome in something, our intellect cannot say, by means of a philosophy, tell us, well, you should not think about yourself in this situation. It has to serve the entire world. You simply can't make yourself do a thing like that, no matter what philosophy you subscribe to, no matter what you think the strength of your particular mind and willpower is. It is anchored into an aspect of nature that is what we call the seen world, the world of outcomes. If we want things to go well for us, if we want to understand the causal level and how we need to be in this world, we have to learn to bridge these two worlds. We have to learn to live in both. And our nature does not naturally give us access to this other place. We do feel it, though. We sense it. We imagine all kinds of things relative to it. We imagine heaven. We imagine all kinds of, say, even science fiction type ideas about that level that actually does the thinking, does the real actions, that constitutes what we think of as laws, that the desire of that upper hidden place though it's simply a desire or a preference or an impulse on the upper level. Here, it is a law set in stone, because it's impossible here to do something that didn't originate in some kind of a desire like that. Now, we do live in both places. The Kabbalists, the sages, and the books of Kabbalah explain this to us, that we actually do live there, but we don't have a handle on that place within us that determines whether something is going to work well in our lives. But we're now at a turning point where we already feel impelled to make the kinds of changes that beg the answer: how do I actually change these things? Why? What is the real cause of these things? What action do I really have to take against the sorts of things that I'm seeing in the world that I no longer really want to put up with? And I don't want to put up with it for me. I don't want to suffer. I don't want my children and my grandchildren to suffer. I want a better world. I want a world that works, basically, where people can enjoy, they can love, they can connect and remain connected, and all of the incredible resources that exist, all of the incredible bounty that exists in this world is available for the pleasure of people. Whereas now it's available for what appears to be the pleasure of few, but it actually is the suffering of everybody. And we have to learn actually how we access that place in us, that causal level in us. And in the past, you could ask the question, well, why would anybody want to learn Kabbalah? And the question would be, why would I want to learn the number of angels on the head of a pin? And of course, that's not what Kabbalah is. Kabbalah really is about a methodology that allows a person to make that change in their nature where their initial impulse will be like the guiding laws of nature. It allows a person to live in both worlds, so that while we are completely the substance of the will to receive, the ego, and so on, we also are another aspect, but we need to enter it. This is why a person would want to learn such a method that allows us to use the only thing that we've got, which is our egoism and our desire to satisfy ourselves, to see that, understand it, that is simply an outcome level, and to go to the place that gives to that level. We now know that we must do that. We must go there. And we're not going to understand any things that are happening in this world. We aren't going to understand physical phenomena, and we aren't going to understand even our own inner lives unless we learn how this works. You're watching Cobb TV Live. The end result of an action is already contained in the original thought. All actions and thoughts of an individual contribute to the whole human system. When a person is unaware of their effect on the system, they automatically act with an egoistic intention. When these intentions combine, they are naturally in conflict. At the global level, a crisis reveals the initial thoughts behind our actions, so that becoming aware of these egoistic thoughts, the individuals can begin to consciously determine the purpose of their actions. it's clear to see that changing the purpose behind an action is the only way to produce positive and purposeful results. This is the law of purpose.
Unfortunately, no one ever looks at their intentions.
Our science correspondent and our resident physicist, Dr. Andy Nastasi, with a, what happened to your thumb?
Oh, I was fixing a hard drive and it kind of jumped out and bit my finger. Just a cut, metal cut, but it's deep actually.
Yeah, you're not a medical doctor, you're a physicist, right? So you don't know what to do about this.
You can see by the bandage I'm not a medical doctor. It would have been a little bit tighter. Tidier.
Well, yeah. It's kind of like a little tourniquet. Well, Andy, there's been a sort of a retake on a fundamental experiment of modern quantum physics, right? It's one of the cornerstones of people's thinking about quantum theory itself.
Exactly.
And there's been a kind of an update on this that has given new insights and brought up new thoughts and questions about it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's it's an interference experiment. Basically, Young started it in at the beginning of the 1800s. He wanted to know whether light is composed of particles or waves. So he set up this experiment where you have an interference pattern, and you can see. It's very easy basically, because if light would be a wave, you would have an interference pattern on the screen, and if light would be particles, you'll have to.
Well, let's you're a physicist, and some people, of course, have read about this stuff, but a lot of our audience may not know what an interference pattern is. We have a video here, and I'm just gonna. It's by. Who is it? It's Dr.
It's
Fred
Dr.
Wolf.
Quantum. Yeah, Dr. Wolf.
Yeah, Fred Wolf, who was working with Dr. Lightman just not a couple of years ago on a book and some lectures and stuff. Well, his specialty here is explaining this. So there's a couple of sections here where you can see how they set the experiment up.
Say
so here's
a marble at the screen. We see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit.
So this is if light would be just like
quantum
bullets.
Weirdness.
Right. So they're shooting particles through a single slit to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And you would think that particles are going to, just like if you were shooting peas, they'd all line up on the back of the screen.
Exactly, which is what you get.
Right. And then there's that thingy again. And then now they set up another system. Let's just look at this. They put two slits.
Duplicated to the right.
And if that's particle, you just get two lines, obviously.
Yeah, so that's the expectation is if you're shooting particles through, you're going to get
two lines.
Right. But instead of this, what happened was something else, right?
Let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit.
And now we're going to see what happens with two slits.
Mm-hmm.
When the actual peaks and valleys combine in a way that create a pattern.
They cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So
basically the setup of the experiment is very obvious. You have two slits. If you get a pattern of peaks and valleys, and it means you're dealing with waves. If you have two lines, it means we're dealing with particles.
Right.
And this is a cornerstone in physics, because when they did this experiment, they actually found out that light is both.
Yes.
In the same time.
So now, but how did they find this out? They did another measurement, right?
Well, basically, we gonna watch the video, or should we explain it a little bit?
You tell me a bit about it.
So they said, okay, so light, it's Either waves of particles. So let's see. At the beginning, when they set it up with electrons, it was moving like particles because
They measured. They were shooting electrons on this side through some kind of an electron gun.
exactly.
Right? And that's what they were seeing, electrons going through, right?
Yeah, and
then they noticed the wave patterns.
Then they noticed the interference patterns,
Yeah.
and they say, okay, we're shooting electrons, we're shooting particles, we're getting interference. That's really weird. Let's have a look at it. Let's set up a little camera, and we're gonna look through which exact slot the electron goes, so we know whether it goes from one, the other, neither, or both.
So they set up some type of measurement instrument, on the other side to see what actually emerged through there. Was it a wave or was it a particle? Right.
Exactly. They set up a detector to see which slit the electron goes
And
through.
what did they find?
Well, they found exactly which slit the electron goes through, but then on the other end on the screen, they found out that there's no more interference pattern anymore, just because they were looking at the electrons in a way that defines them as particle. The measuring instrument is actually an instrument that finds particle.
Mm-hmm.
What happened is that the experiment itself produced particles, and it produced two lines. It didn't produce an interference pattern anymore, just because this measurement was made, because it was observed in a certain way.
So as soon as they started watching, whether it was a wave or a particle, it turned back into a particle, and that because that was the original approach that they were taking to the experiment.
Exactly.
So the observation or the measurement determined
the result. And that's basically an experiment that shocked many physicists. And there's really no rational way to explain this in any way.
But it was both things, wasn't it? I mean, it was okay.
It is. So light is both wave and particle.
That's what we say that, but
it doesn't help us.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help us really understand that from the physical level. So what's the new twist on the experiment?
So this experiment, they weren't too sure if this is actually true, if this is actually maybe something that's really happening, or maybe it's an artifact. So they wanted to confirm this, and a way to confirm it is to actually put more than two slits. And then what Bohr said, because this is a postulate, basically, this about the way interference pattern works in quantum physics. It's basically a postulate. It's not proven. It's an equation that Bohr put out. And then if there would be many slits, it'll still be like two slits. It wouldn't make a difference if you add more slits to the experiment.
So that was the postulate, that it wouldn't matter, according to what they now are thinking about the relationship of waves and particles, that it shouldn't make any difference.
Exactly. Yeah, there's 6 postulates in quantum mechanics, and they're all formulas, but one of them says this, that basically it's an equation, but that reflection of that equation is that,
Okay.
So they want to verify this. So it's actually from, the study was made at the University of Waterloo here in Canada. I was surprised to find out that. One of the co-authors was Urbashi Shina. She's a quantum computing specialist. And they wanted to do this experiment because if it confirms the fact that if you add more slits, nothing happens at all, it still remains the same, it confirms the postulate, then basically it means that we should keep our view of quantum mechanics the way it is for now, because some scientists are actually considering changing it to include gravity. So it's an important experiment.
So on the screen here, folks, you can see, if you cut to the screen, you can see that the setup for this experiment that Andy's about to describe.
Yeah. So basically, all right. Let me see where I am here on my notes. Let me read you a little bit from the article.
Okay.
In a new study, Sina and colleagues made 3 parallel slits in a stainless steel plate. The light was sent through the slits, and detectors on the other side tallied up the photons that pass through each of them. So basically, they had 3 slits, and what they did, they went through all the possibilities. 2 slits open, 3 slits open, 1 slit open. And there's basically, I think, there's 9 possibilities, I think.
So let's cut to the chase. What is it that now happened when they had the three slits? What did they actually see? Was this correct, what they postulated?
Exactly. So they said adding more slits doesn't make a difference.
You get exactly the same wave pattern.
To the precision that we can measure it today, yes.
So they're saying the article is called 2 is the magic number. Do they have any idea why 2...
No, that's the same thing that we're dealing with. Light is both wave and particle, because this wouldn't make sense. Like having free slits will change the experiment if we would do this in a macroscopic world,
right?
In a world that Newtonian physics apply,
yes.
Not quantum physics. So this is a weirdness of the added.
So if you're looking at a mechanical. If you're looking at the world through the eyes of somebody who says everything is individual, separated, works according to a certain kind of mechanical nature, sort of individual mechanisms, you could never get a result like this. And there's no explanation on this level of that type of interaction, because from what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that you have one thing, like you have one thing that is going through 2 holes.
Exactly, one electron that's going through 2 holes in the same time.
At the same time, and it's producing both a wave and a particle thing. So it's on both sides. It goes through both slits at the same time, or none at the same time. And when you add 3 to it, you get precisely the same wave pattern. So no matter how much you add onto the fact that this is happening, you don't get any difference.
Exactly.
From the point of view of what we learn in Kabbalah from a causal level, even though it's written in, I'm not saying that this is the science that explains physics, but if, as the Kabbalists tell us, it's a level of desire, and that's a way of being able to speak about causal forces. We learn in that science that there are only 2 things in creation, that matter is just made out of what's called creator and creature, and that is exactly the same force, but opposite sides of a same force, and they're just in a ratio, one thing with the other, and it's a desire between the desire to receive and the desire to bestow. So from that, all of the phenomena that is inside of a person and all the phenomena that we see in this world is a result, according to Kabbalah, is a result of particular ratios and interactions of a single force expressed as a kind of an opposition. So, and within that, all the complexity of the world emerges. So if you want to, it's no surprise to a Kabbalist that even if you add 3, 4, or 5, you're still going to get fundamentally everything reflecting down to 2 as an expression of 1. And that's why that one thing can be on both sides, because it already is on both sides. It's only us who makes that division. And that perception of the measurement that happens, it has to determine everything, because if you're on this side or you're on that side, it's only according to your scale of measurement. The only way to get any different sort of a measurement, according to Kabbalah, is to be on the desire level. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm driving you crazy.
No. That makes sense, because I understand that we cannot be impressed by. It was an example in the lesson today. If you see a wall with 1,000 dials, you're not really impressed by the dials. You're impressed by your own sensation of it. Is it good? Is it going to explode? Is it bad? Like, we don't have a question about 1,000 dials. Our impressions are...
They're whole.
Yeah, they're maintained by I don't know what. I cannot tell you exactly, but our impressions are a result of forces.
Mm-hmm.
Are basic forces.
But the forces are not here in this world. They're a combination of things. They're a combination of one thing expressed as 2, either an upper world and a lower world, or inner and outer, and they are actually controlled by what you're saying. They're controlled by sensation. They're controlled by an impulse called a desire. Yeah. I want to. That's great, Andy. This was really fun. I want to go to something here, which is kind of interesting. A guy who also worked with Fred Wolf, Jeffrey Satinover, did a series of lectures with Dr. Lightman, and they're dealing with that subject here. So let's take a look at that.
Great.
I would like to hear if you see the connection between the two worlds, the spiritual and the physical. What can we think will be possible in the future regarding the connection between the two worlds?
The most sophisticated modern science does, in my view, if you understand it correctly, is it demonstrates that the way that the physical world operates is not only due to other physical interactions, that there's something else that goes on. But it's part and parcel of the scientific perspective, this scientific perspective. And in a funny way, this is very true in Kabbalistic teachings as well, that you can't appeal to the deterministic side of the boundary to tell you what lies on the transcendental side, so to speak. Now, living with that may be difficult for some people, but on the other hand, when it's understood properly, I think it's an extraordinarily powerful impetus to the development of one's spiritual life.
I would like to add to this. When you are in both worlds, you do see the connection between them and how one affects the other. They affect one another, the upper on the lower on the upper. There's a flow, a clear connection, and clear communication. The laws are the same laws, but what happens in the upper law is copied into matter into the lower law. You can study the upper world from the lower law as it is written. It's possible. However, this is possible on the condition that you've already developed the sixth sense, and you live in the five senses in this world, in the body, as well as in the sixth sense, in the soul. But if you're only in one of these worlds, then of course you cannot learn and research the connections between them. We also know this from books of Kabbalists, and there were some, the greatest of whom was the Gaon of Vilna. These Kabbalists engaged in the connection between the two worlds, and they wrote a lot about it. Actually, our whole literature is written this way. For example, when we open the Torah, the Pentateuch, and we read a story from there, it's a story written as if it's happening in this world. However, the secret of the story is that through this world, you can see the spiritual world. And then, if you have that sixth sense, then you can see that higher degree, and what it's about, and what those who wrote the holy books actually meant. Why are they called holy? It's because they discuss the spiritual world and not this world. They're not history books. So we're just talking about a science, the wisdom of Kabbalah, which helps us see the whole of reality directly, from below to above, and vice versa. However, if you are only on one side, even if you're Einstein, although he really yearned to see reality's overall formulae, or even if you're the greatest Kabbalist, but without a body, then neither of them would be able to engage in the connection between the two worlds.
When we were preparing for this show, I like to check out what's viral. Take sort of the emotional temperature, the desire temperature of the globe. Because the things that people look at, that hundreds of thousands or millions of people look at on a given day, that's pretty good indication of a sort of physical expression of something that's going on generally within you. Although most days it has to do with a cat. Just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, it's like it's all cats, or or somebody falling or being chased by an animal, or some hot chick, but today there was something very interesting to me. It's a song, and it's a song by a musician called Carbon City Lights, and I saw it on YouTube. The guy's name is Michael I. And this song, it turned out, just by coincidence, that he lives in Toronto. That's neither here nor there. It's just that it's here. And he wrote a song that got hundreds of thousands of hits, and it's a song called Why Money. What's really interesting about this tune is that it really is a probing song. It's a sincere question. It's like a cry, and it's not just his cry. Obviously, it's something that a lot of people identify with. It's about why do we chase the things that we chase? Why is everything centered around all of these bad things that are happening now are centered around money? I mean, you can hear he speaks for himself. It's well performed, and it's really an interesting lyric, and it represents a kind of a cry of a generation that wants to change values so that the world works for everybody, and is seeking some kind of an answer. The problem that we're having is that right now we're up against a dead end with that. We can't see an answer from this level, from the causal level, the sort of outcome level that we're living on, and we are crying for some kind of access to that upper level where we can make the kind of change that's in the heart of a man like Michael I. So let's listen to this tune.
You love or mix of minds, the shit you hear in your car, it's so the same. It's gonna drive me wild. It's gonna drive me wild. It's gonna drive me wild. It may bring you good, but it's not breath. It may buy you a smile, but it's not respect. It may bring you sex. Where's your love? And they buy you a house. Where's your home? Where's your home? And money's nothing but a bunch of hate. It makes you feel, or makes you steal. The more you have, the more you want, the less you have. Why ask for more? Why ask for more? Why ask for more? It may bring you blood, but it's not breath. It may buy you a spot, but it's not respect. It may bring you sex, but where's the love? It may buy you a house, but where's your home? It may bring you blood, but it's not breath. It may buy you a spot, but it's not respect. It may bring you sex, but where's the love? It may buy you a house, but where's your home? Where is love, love? Where is love, love? Where is love, love?
That's Carbon City Lights, Michael I, and he has an album coming out in September, and you can find him on YouTube by searching under Carbon City Lights, one word. Money. It can buy you a house, but where's your home? Our lifestyle correspondent, Susan Morales, has been looking at some trends in giving. And because people are looking for solutions to things that they see here, we understand that there are lacks, there are gaps, there are disasters happening, and I know you had some questions about giving, and so you went and did a little bit of a search as to what's going on with it. What did you find?
Well, I was wondering, with, like you just mentioned, with the earthquake in Haiti, the flooding in Pakistan, I wondered if people were still giving. That was a question I had. And
because it had fallen off because of the financial crisis now.
Yeah. So were they giving? Who was giving? And to what were they giving? And I also had a question as to why we were so fascinated by money, and particularly who was giving it away. Okay, so I wondered, was there a rise in philanthropy? And what I discovered was, there is a rise in philanthropy after the financial crisis. The Chronicle of Philanthropy in the U.S. says that there's an indication in the first quarter that there's an 11% median increase in that.
When we say what did you call it? The what of philanthropy?
The Chronicle of Philanthropy. That's the site that I went.
So there are people. Oh, that's a site that.
It's a site.
It measures if people are giving or not, or is that a place for philanthropists, guys with top hats and cigars?
It's like a data bank. And they collect statistics on philanthropy. Okay. So they said, yes, there is, but it's a slow recovery happening, but it's happening. Then I found out that in the UK, there's an increase as well in philanthropy. What I found interesting there, though, was that private philanthropists, donated this year or last year $233 billion compared to the government. And the government only spent $121 billion. So.
Well, isn't that common? I mean, is it... What usually happens? Does the government give more than people by their own sort of free will, so to speak?
I don't know, but that's obviously in the UK. Okay, I don't know what happens worldwide, but it was.
So they pointed it out. In other words, like all of a sudden, people got some kind of an impulse to give more than they generally expect to.
Well, yeah, the private donors from the private sector, more than the government. And in China, it was up 4% from last year. The top 100 philanthropists, I can't say that. The top 100 money guys donated an average about $33 million each over the last 5 years, and it was up 5%. So again, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, not too long ago, you didn't have people with millions of anything other than the government.
Other than people in China. Okay, yeah. So then I wondered, well, what were they giving to, and who were these people giving? And I found some interesting things about that 86% of the wealthy donors, were motivated to give by the notion of meeting needs, critical needs.
You mean like when there's disasters and stuff?
Yeah, so 86% of the wealthy donate that, while 83% of those wealthy donors are motivated by, I want to give back to society. That's what motivates them. So what I found interesting about that's talking about the wealthy. Yeah. But in the Haiti earthquake, the Red Cross raised $32 million in just $10 donations sent via text messages.
Well, I heard that they raised an incredible amount, all kinds of stuff and an incredible amount of money. But I saw a report, I think it was last week, about an orphanage on a street in Port-au-Prince, or I think it was, or maybe it was a small town or something, and there were kids there who were starving. There was rancid food and very little of it, and somebody made an arrangement, went down the street, and there was a huge warehouse, and it was full of food, and none of this food was getting anywhere, so they brought a little bit of it in a small truck for these kids. So is this effective, what they're doing? I mean, is it working, or?
Obviously in that example, not. But with the Haiti earthquake, what I also found in my research was that it changed the way that people donate now. They have to donate smart. That's something that.
So there is a kind of a reaction to feeling that I donate, but it doesn't work. So maybe I have to target it better.
Not only are we being pressured that you better give to help save the world, but you better do it smartly.
Where's that? We're being pressured.
Yeah, one thing where this came from was George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah. he, along with Bill Clinton, when they were dealing with the Haiti crisis, this is a quote from Mr. Bush.
So it takes two presidents to get something done.
Two former presidents.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water, Mr. Bush said, but he reiterated with what the relief organizations have been saying for days: just send your cash. And he promised that he and Mr. Clinton would make sure your money is spent wisely. That little remark that he made from this site that I got that information from, said, actually from the New York Times, said this would have been an interesting footnote if it were not for the sustained message from the mainstream media that followed that, so that donors need to do more than just support Haiti. They need to be smart donors. So
yeah, so people feel that there was a huge response with Haiti. It really scared the crap out of people that a place could be. It was small enough that you could see that the whole place got flattened, and there was there's even questions about whether Haiti should have been rebuilt at all because of the level of the destruction and the hopelessness of the people. And I think that there was a question for people whether their giving is going to make any difference in this case. But you're saying that despite all this, people are still giving, and they're giving more?
Yes, they're still giving, and having to be having discernments with it. There's a whole business of philanthropic advisors to advise you as to how to do this wisely. Another thing that I was wondering about was volunteerism is another aspect of donating, okay? And from the Association of Fundraising Professionals, in a study sponsored by the Ronald McDonald House Charities, 93% of Americans surveyed believed that it's important to promote volunteerism. However, more than half, 51%, said they'd rather read, watch TV, or visit in-laws rather than volunteer for charity.
Yeah, that's how much people
really want to volunteer, really want to give.
Yeah, here's my $10, but don't ask me to do anything. Well, what is this thing here about the billionaires?
Yes, this was in today's Star, and what this is 30 billionaires met at the prompting of Warren Buffett and Bill Gates to pledge to join their organization called the Giving Pledge. And what they do is these billionaires pledge to give at least 50% of their wealth to philanthropic
while they're alive?
Yes, while they're alive.
How close to their death day?
No, they have to start now.
And so they make a pledge to do this?
Yeah. And there's that's on that site. It's called the Giving Pledge. And what the pledge is, that the following people have pledged to give the majority of their wealth to philanthropy. Okay.
The majority of their wealth to
the number's 50. The least is 50%. That's the least they can donate when they sign this pledge.
Warren Buffett gives some incredible percentage, right?
Warren Buffett gives 99% of his wealth to the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation when he made that commitment years ago. So this just started in June.
So after looking at all this stuff, investigating all this stuff, I can't say investigating. What did that leave you? I mean, what do you see?
I thought, what's the point? I mean, there's a lot of people with lots of money, and I was in awe of this. Did you know that there are 403 billionaires in the U.S. alone? 403 billionaires.
And they're alone?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I never thought of that much wealth, and that there was this organization. I think this is a good intention.
I think it's a good intention too, and I think it's like the song that we listen to. It's a kind of a looking for a solution on the level that we have access to, and hoping that the mechanical action of giving is going to have a certain outcome, but we see that it doesn't, and it depends very much on that quantum level, or that higher level, the level of impulse and desire. If let's say you have, how many billionaires did you say?
403.
403. you know, is it that 403 very wealthy individuals are going to take care and solve our problems? Look at these guys, you know, externally they've got it, so they're going to fix it. Is this what we're being asked to do? Or are we being asked to do something in which everybody has to take care of this problem, but the problem is not a problem of external action? Because the outcome of any of this giving, and we already see it, it doesn't, no matter how good or how real that cry is in our heart to fix something and to be able to fix something, we can't fix something until we fix the reason why we're doing stuff. Is there anything that you found about?
Yeah, a couple of quotes, quick quotes from people that are in this club. Mm-hmm. One person said, because on this page they write testimonials, they write a letter as to why they're donating, why they're making this pledge. Mm-hmm. One gentleman said, making a difference in people's lives and seeing it with your own eyes is perhaps the most satisfying thing you'll ever do. If you want to fully enjoy life, give. If you want to do something for your children and show how much you love them, the single best thing by far is to support organizations which will create a better world for them and their children. Another woman said, I think what motivates philanthropy is a passion to be able to do whatever your passion happens to be able to make that happen. It's almost like a drug, if you like, once you start and see what difference you can make. I think it makes you want to go on and on. So.
You know, I respect very much these actions of service, and I think if you have $1 billion, it's hard to give up 95% of 99% or 50% or any of that. If it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and the impulse is coming because nature is moving us along this way, but there's something missing.
Yeah, I wondered. It's like a calculation. Is it just even this number, 51% or 99%?
It's not. It isn't the calculation, and it isn't the number. There is a level of impulse that has to be from a different sort of nature, and it has to come from that place. And when it does come from that place, which is not being done for ourselves, those 400 billionaires, if they spent the time learning, there's a question here, how can we change the upper to help us in the lower? That's from Carrie in Denver, Colorado. We have to learn how we get access to that place in us that has us desire the right thing. We have to be able to work above our nature and have a different reason for what we do. And that is not something that is in our nature at all. So if those 400 billionaires learned, if it didn't have to be 400, if just a few of them learned how to actually work with that and to make the choice from a completely different second nature, that would do more to change the balance of everything in this world than any physical action. And then with that piece added to it, when you add the correct intention, and you learn how to reach that, then every act is assured to have its correct outcome because it's aligned with the thing that actually organizes, whether, we'll go back to what we were talking about with Andy, whether it's a particle, whether it's a wave, whether it's here or whether it's there. You can see it can be anything at all, but it depends on our quality as to whether we see it here, there, or the other place. So if we're dealing with our quality, we can't change our lower nature. We have to learn a method that creates a higher nature. And from that higher nature, the sages tell us, the outcome is always assured to do what these people are trying to do from the bottom of their hearts. But that's not the bottom of the heart. That's the problem. It has to, the bottom of the heart is a pure desire in our second nature, and a person really needs to learn how to do that. And by learn, I mean specifically learn. So I'd like you to take a look at what it means to learn and where you can learn this.
Religion, whatever it was, I was searching for a certain density of feeling and emotion that would make me feel something. And Kabbalah was like
so geniusly, with such a beauty which I never
imagined that this even existed, that there was something out there that could do this for me.
It was literally
breathtaking.
I immediately felt that this was the real thing.
I felt a drawing from my heart. It was like I found myself.
It was like this was it. This is the best thing ever. Like, this is why everyone is alive.
Like all of those combined together, but like exponentially.
I was feeling a great connection.
The instructors really exuded this confidence.
It's so easy, so logic. Unbelievable, you know. That's my experience.
A very scientific, logical approach to describing basically the universe.
They were very friendly, and the lessons were interactive, and we could ask questions.
Like, you could tell, like, these people are doing something that's real. They're giving it their all. They're putting that into their work, and they're putting that into the lessons, and you feel it.
Without pretense. They're regular people who aren't doing this for money, fame, recognition.
I can't say in words. They were incredible.
This isn't a knowledge that's about intellectual knowledge. It's more about a knowledge which we sense and we feel within us.
They developed with me internally. I felt the changes.
It actually comes to you by way of some sort of personal attainment.
I think I would call it a sense of purpose.
It's something that I take with me all the time. It's something that I carry with me all day, really. It's something that I come back to.
You feel that there's something that's greater than you are. There's something beyond just yourself.
It's something you cannot explain.
It's something different. It's hard to describe.
It's very difficult to explain it, to put it into words, because you have to feel it.
It was like just how can I say it?
Yourself. You find yourself.
I want to apologize for some information that's not clear on the channel here. There were people who submitted some questions directly while they were watching. They signed up on the live page to be able to submit questions, and they were watching a broadcast which turned out not to be the beginning of the summer semester. You will be able, however, to watch the summer semester, the next lesson on Sunday. But you need to know that you can't actually submit questions from Kabbalah channel to the Learning Center lessons. You have to sign up for the lessons themselves, and there's links, there's banners on our site that allow you to go there and do that. You can watch the lessons from the channel, but you can't actually participate in them. So if you're moved enough that you're sitting and you're watching it and you want to get involved, then you can still sign up. It's early enough. It's free. You can just go there and do that. But we do have some questions that came based on this show, and we have from Mark from the Florida group. So Mark is already doing some studying, and his question is, how can I stop trying to gain knowledge in the study? I can't feel yet, so I have to use what I have. Students during the lesson ask questions, and Rav, Dr. Lightman, gives answers. So it would seem as if we're supposed to be gaining knowledge. Help. Yeah, you know, Mark, you have to use what you have, and it's not that you don't use your brain and you don't, that knowledge doesn't do anything. It's a rudder. It helps us feel and understand certain things so that we can, it's really, as new students, we go through a process basically of elimination as to what is and what isn't an intention, what is a connection and what isn't a connection. And this attempt and analysis that we go through when we are looking for knowledge, and while all the time really looking for where is this other level, what is it really about? Because the study is about connection. When a person begins to focus, even though they're getting pleasure from the knowledge, and believe me, if you didn't receive this pleasure, because we are only a will to receive, you wouldn't want to study anymore. There's a lot of beautiful things in Kabbalah. It is a kind of archiscience from which it is possible to understand all phenomena. This is closer to the end of the road of study than at the beginning. But even at the beginning, there's so much that's really beautiful about it that's there in order to help us be able to move towards a place where we begin to find how it is possible to invert our nature, to work above it. And it's a process. Just like your growing up was a process. You didn't understand anything about this world when you first came into it. Everybody had to do everything for you. They had to feed you. They had to carry you. They had to, clean you when you when you went where you were. And this is the same thing in entry to a spiritual world. Let's call it, to a causal world. We enter it kind of like we're like a fetus. And we develop in it, and it takes time, and we have to be weaned off of our constant reception, and we have to understand the difference between that and the goal that we want to reach. And it's a beautiful process. It's an adventure. And along the way, there's always little things. So what you're doing is perfectly fine. You're not really having a problem. If you're asking that question, help, ask that as you go into the lesson, and that need will actually allow the light to teach you to do it, because it's not something you do by your strength or by your own intellect or anything like that. It comes out of a need. It comes out of a desire. Desire controls everything. And when you learn how to approach a proper desire, that's when things really start working for you and for everybody. And finally, there's a question here from in response to something that was said in an earlier show. This is coming from a woman. Do you think that the woman's desire to get more involved in the process of getting Kedusha means to find this other level, is proof of egoism? I remember that I want to do my part for she's calling it the men's labor in connection, and my desire for interconnection to get my soul ready for the beauty of the light of the Creator. She's speaking in religious terms and in poetic terms. She says she doesn't want to be an egoist, and she doesn't want to do anything forbidden to women. And so what you need to understand in relation to this comment that I made, that the methodology for women is different than the methodology for men. It is not forbidden. There's nothing forbidden. Forbidden means impossible, right? So if you take it on that level, okay. There is a methodology of Kabbalah for women, but you need to study. It sounds from what you're writing here that you're doing it on your own, and a person cannot do it on their own. So join the Learning Center, learn what all these things mean, and you will eventually naturally be led to the proper methodology for a woman that brings about exactly the same correction. But a woman's not broken in the same places and to the same degree as men are in this world. And anyway, we're not talking about men and women. We're talking about two qualities of one thing, and it's one creature. And the two qualities we call male and female, but they have nothing to do with gender in this world at all. But the correction for a woman is a much shorter and a very different sort of thing. But you can study anything you want. You can learn anything you want. It's just that after a while, that's not going to actually get you along where you need to go. But you will learn that. You're going to learn that, and it's a natural thing. And you'll even choose it. So why don't you sign up for the Learning Center and get the information that you need? And I'm going to leave you with this, and I want to thank you and all of our contributors for a great, really interesting show. And let's make that change.
1, 2, 3, chicken boom.